about the new Google Analytics and the death rattle that it heralds. So I think, not all of this, but a lot of this is coming from privacy concerns. Obviously, Google was planning on rolling out the new analytics prior to the firestorm of privacy issues that we've all been facing, but clearly it's been very heavily touted as a solution to some of these privacy concerns that people are talking about. And keep in mind, just for context, it's October 16, 2020 as I'm recording this video. The article came out 2 days ago. And I just spent some time digging into it before I recorded it because I wanted to make sure I was intelligent enough to speak to it with some degree of call it believable expertise. Facebook just rolled out their announcement saying that they're going to limit the 28-day attribution window to a 7-day attribution window. And then, in response to people literally losing their mind, backpedaled on that. Everybody's blaming changes in browser policy for the way that cookies are being handled, but that's not enough of an excuse from an attribution standpoint because there are ways and areas where Facebook would still have that data accessible. Now, it obviously limits some of the data that Facebook has. You could even potentially say a majority of the data Facebook has if you know enough about the way that Facebook functions, and I don't have that information. But it doesn't limit all of it. So, it sort of begs the question why Facebook's starting to decrease the amount of information that it's giving us. And it's, I think, the same reason that Google's doing it as well. There's something about the limitation of the view that we've been provided that lends itself to, I think, a forced and ongoing reliance on machine learning. Because if you don't have the information accessible yourself, you need to now start trusting the computer. So I'm going to just go through this article, not line by line, but I just want to share with you some of the parts that I highlighted that I think are really important. And I'll make sure to include this link in the description of the video. So the different colors here, by the way, are just where I want to separate thoughts. So there's no rhyme or reason to it other than that. And by the way, a couple people have asked me, I use this little thing, this little handy dandy extension called Highlighter in order to highlight these articles in case anybody's interested. I'm not an affiliate, just like what they do. So first one, instantly they mention the privacy-driven changes, which is worth noting. This is risk mitigation on Google's end. So, is the new analytics going to be better, faster, more comprehensive? Yeah, sure, maybe. But I think action item number one for Google is getting in front of this big antitrust suit that they're about to face. And so, a lot of this is just they're playing CYA. And as an advertiser, you and I need to recognize that right out of the gate, because in some instances, it looks like they're about to rip the rug out from under us. So we've got a note here about machine learning being at the core. Automatically surface helpful insights and gives you a complete understanding of your customers across devices and platforms. Now, some of this actually sounds really cool. It sounds like what Google's doing is trying to give us a better, omni-channel, omni-device, omni-platform view, which is a promise that Google's been making for as long as it's been relevant. And honestly, I think they've been doing a pretty good job at working towards, top conversion path being a really good example of a tough thing to pull off, but an interesting set of data to have provided. And here's Google saying that they want to double down on that. So I guess we're going to see, how effective that information ends up being. Here's Google talking about privacy. So it's privacy-centric by design. So you can rely on analytics even as industry changes like restrictions on cookies and identifiers create gaps in your data. So what they're doing here is raising a flag, letting us know, there's a bunch of stuff we're not going to give you. What I think is interesting about this next section is that Google actually has this highlighted. So it's bold. If you go to the article, they actually have this text bold themselves. The new Google Analytics will give you the essential insights you need to be ready for what's next. So basically, hey, y'all, the entire market is changing. The whole wide world is becoming privacy obsessed. And I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's not a negative. But we're adjusting our data acquisition in order to protect individual privacy. And in some ways, analytics has always been an in-aggregate platform. So I don't feel like it has the same. Privacy concerns as some of the more like with Google Ads, how you can connect individual users to individual actions. Not to say you couldn't do that with analytics, but you have to kind of do it anecdotally and by reverse engineering. So I think that analytics has always been one standard deviation removed from the individual user data collection. But obviously, there's there's way more to it than I even entirely understand, and then B, there's just the fact that a user is taking action and thus being tracked, and for whatever reason we're all repelled by that idea right now. So major modification here. It's going to be interesting to see how it manifests. A couple of these start to get really interesting, and you're starting to see Google appears to be using analytics to push ads, which is brilliant and interesting, and something that, in my opinion, they really haven't done. So the new analytics can automatically alert you to significant trends in your data. It helps you anticipate future actions your customers may take. We're continuing to add new predictive metrics like the potential revenue you could earn from a particular group of customers. And then down here, we've got a deeper integration with Google Ads. So I think what's happening is Google Analytics is going to start to become a lead indication tool. Where there's lag and lead indicators, the lead indicator being, the front end, hey, here's what could happen. And the lead indication will catalyze the necessity of Google Ads, because you're not going to be able to take tangible action, organically the way that you could with ads, especially not with the way that Google's, kind of presenting this here in real time. I don't see this. I mean, obviously it's going to influence your organic strategy, of course, but some of what's new feels very geared towards paid. So that's interesting. Google seems to be kind of like, further molding those two into each other. So they're kind of two sides to the same boxcar. The new analytics can measure app and web interactions together. That's something they already had, incidentally. But, that's life. It can include conversions from YouTube engaged views that occur in-app and on the web in reports. So, and maybe I'll refrain from saying what I was about to say, but some of this is old news, basically. Seeing conversions from YouTube video views alongside conversions from Google and non-paid channels and organic channels like Google Search, social, and email helps you understand the combined impact of all your marketing efforts. So again, omnichannel reporting. It's been a promise, been something that they've been aiming for, been something I actually think they've been doing a pretty good job at sort of working towards. Inside your analytics report, if you've ever looked at, your top conversions by, channel, I think that they've done a pretty good job at providing some of that data already. The new analytics gives you customer-centric measurement, which, that's really interesting too. It sort of starts to kind of beg the question as to how they're getting this data, where it's coming from, and what the change is resting upon, because they're clearly moving away from, the historic method of measurement, specifically cookies. And here we go. It uses multiple identity spaces, including marketer-provided user IDs and unique Google signals from users opted in to add personalization to give you more complete view of how your customers interact with your business. So here's what Google's saying. Just brief aside, stepping away from the article. They're not able to use cookies the way that they're able to use it, and browsers are being limited. But they have so much more data. They have basically digital thumbprints, in perpetuity, in ways that I don't think most of us even understand. The device that you're using, the location that you're coming from, the IP that you're, there's so many ways for them to identify who you are outside of just a cookie. And they're pulling an audible here in a way, but I think they're just getting a little bit more sophisticated with their tracking, and then they're calling that privacy protection, which is really funny. Here we go with them saying you'll also get a better understanding of your customers across their entire life cycle, from acquisition to conversion to retention. That's really cool. That's something I'm really excited to see, assuming they can pull it off. That's also something I know of two VC-funded software organizations, one of which we're actually involved in personally, that are working towards this exact goal, sans analytics. So it'll be interesting to see analytics subvert that, because right now this is maybe the biggest bane in the existence of data-driven marketers. Here we go. We simplified and reorganized reporting so you can intuitively find marketing insights based on the part of the customer journey you're interested in. So Google reporting on funnel-based customer sessions is cool. Anytime Google says we simplified anything, I instantly get terrified because I know, okay, you're taking controls away from me, you're taking data away from me. So I don't know if this is going to work to our benefit or not, but I do like the idea that it's on in terms of the customer value journey. But I don't love that we're simplifying things, Google, because anytime they simplify things, it means that we lose freedom. This will also help you respond to rising customer expectations, regulatory developments, and changing technology standards for user privacy. So here's them again saying, look, we're moving towards compliance, it's so funny. Anytime regulators try to regulate anything, you have a bunch of old geriatric, non-techie people writing laws for elements and industries and mechanisms they don't understand. So this is a perfect example of them saying, well, you can't do it this way. So Google's like, all right, we can do it actually way more sophisticated in a way that you'll never be able to track or identify. So, poo-poo to you. But what sucks about that is previously the tracking mechanisms they were using were things that we actually had control over as advertisers. Now you're even more reliant on the machine, on the computer, and on Google specifically. Obviously, we've always been relying on the computers, but these are things that are going to be difficult to reconcile in a third-party fashion. So we're actually losing the ability to create our own level of transparency, or a kind of an agnostic third-party tool, and this is going to destroy, I think, some software applications meant to kind of police Google, things like Wicked Reports. I don't know how they're going to contend with this. We'll see. More granular controls for ads personalization let you choose when to use your data to optimize your ads and when to limit your data use to measurement. So that's interesting too. This is kind of, in Google Ads, they have kind of the observation mode. It seems like they're providing, expanding into that paradigm a little bit. But again, here's Google using analytics to push ads, which I like. I'm a Google Ads manager, so Yahoo, not Yahoo. Yippee. We continue to offer user controls over sharing their activity with Google Analytics. Yeah, right. That's fine. The new analytics is, and again, here's them. This is risk mitigation. Google's playing CYA. Bet money this comes up in every deposition. The new analytics is designed to adapt to a future with or without cookies or identifiers. Bam. So first of all, so interesting. Meaning Google had just told us we can still track users and prospects across devices and across multiple sessions without cookies, which makes sense. I mean, we kind of already know that, but they're just, they're pulling the rabbit out of the hat a little bit. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this manifests. Will incur modeling to fill in gaps where the data may be incomplete. This is what terrifies me. So here's Google letting us know we're going to use machine learning and AI in order to intuit what we think to be the truth, regardless of whether or not that information is actually real. And most importantly, I don't believe that advertisers are really going to be given a full view of Google saying, this is the information that we filled in the gaps. Here's where we filled in the lines. So we're going to be making actionable decisions. We're going to be spending money off of data that Google has invented, more or less, based off of machine learning. And, the worst part about it, and I'm probably Chicken Little right now because they're going to be good at it. They're a $1 trillion brand that, has invested God knows how much money in machine learning and AI. So chances are there's not as much to worry about, with the exception of the fact that we just have no visibility. Again, it's an ongoing march towards machine learning automation. Basically, sit down, shut up, give us your money. We know better than you do. Which, on some levels they actually do, which is even scarier. It's more offensive when they're right. So, I don't know. I'm going to be interested to play with it. Obviously, I'm going to be impressed. I think that, everything that they've rolled out recently has been just gold. So I anticipate the tool being pretty cool. But, it bears mentioning that we're potentially losing some freedom and flexibility that we have up to this point taken for granted. And that's all I've got. If you have any opinions or you disagree with something I said or something I said is stupid, hit me in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Because if you subscribe and I get to 1,000 subscribers, I get to start going live. And then we can talk. We're going to ask questions and you can call me out on my BS right out of the gate. That'd be awesome. that's all I got. Really appreciate y'all for watching, honestly and truly. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.